That's what happens in that life. So I have a big sit down, and we can't get along. And I told my guy, I said, you're never going to get along with this guy, and I'm never going to get along with John in this market. I said, so we have to do something. Either we're going to buy him out, or he's going to buy us out. So I knew at the time that he would never stand for me buying him out. Never.
Pride.
Yeah, pride. So I had to have him buy me out. But if I told him to buy me out, he wouldn't buy me out. So I went in there and we sat down. I said, John, I'm buying you out. And the first words, it's like I knew, you don't buy me out, I buy you out. I said, no, I'm buying you. We went back and forth. Finally, I gave in. I said, all right, buy me out, you know. So he buys me out. You know, we get out, we share the money or whatever. 3 months later, the market went down. He closed it because I knew what they were going to do. Now, who got the better end of the deal? I don't know, because I know what I got. Who knows how much he got when he busted the market out. But it worked out better that way. But, you know, he thought he won. You know, he could tell everybody he got me out of the market. Meanwhile, I got what I wanted. So that's how you had to deal with him.
Very interesting. Anybody else that was very good in the sit down that was a different approach than him?
You know, I sat down with Castellano. He was rough. You know, he was more business, but, you know, he's a boss, so he can throw his weight around a little bit more, and you had to be mindful of that, you know. But you had to be respectful and just hold your ground, you know. But he was good. He was really good. I sat down with Fat Tony Salerno, who was the boss of the Genovese family. I liked Tony a lot. You know, I really liked him, really respected him. He was very good. The old timers were good. The younger guys, not so much. But, you know, I had an advantage. I mean, I always had my father, you know, early on was my mentor, so he kind of gave me clues as to how to go in and win, and he was good.
35, it's like you were the LeBron James of the era, right? I mean, you were the youngest guy. I mean, it's 11 years is the difference to the second youngest guy, and that's Gotti, and you're doing it at 35, sitting with these powerful guys negotiating. Michael, how was compensation figured out? Okay, 40 cents, I'm bringing 500 million gallons, 6 to 8 million a week. How is the money spread? So the soldiers, you know, and then you got, how was that spread? Was there a arrangement that was, everyone knew how the numbers would be, it's 10% here or 5% here, 20% here, or would everything vary and nothing was really a steady number that would always be there?
I had my own formula, and I discussed it with my father, and we came to this conclusion. If it was a legitimate deal, I didn't have to give anybody anything. It was my deal. Like I had a couple of automobile dealerships, I had a movie car, I had a lot of stuff legitimately. That was mine.
So if you started and nobody else helped you start, it's 100% yours.
It's mine.
And you don't have to share any of it.
No, unless I took them in as a partner, and they gave me money or whatever. No, it was totally mine. So my legit stuff was mine. The street stuff was different. Like when I first got involved with the gas business and I knew what I had, I went and see my boss. I sat down with him, I said, Junior, I'm onto something, it's Persico. I said, I'm gonna show you more money than you ever seen before. And he said, we don't do drugs. I said, it's not drugs, you know I'm not into that. I said, I'm into the gas business. I said, but here's the deal. I don't need you to do anything, but when other families learn of what we have, everybody's gonna wanna get involved. I said, as soon as that happens, we're gonna blow it. I said, you gotta keep this within the family. I said, if we have an argument, you gotta make me win. You gotta make me win. Don't play politics, nothing. You do that for me, and I'll show you more money than you ever saw before. And he said, show me. And I'm starting to bring him every week. All he had to do was sit back. I didn't ask him for anything, right? But every time we had a sit down, I had to win. Now I'm bringing him $2 million a week. That buys a lot of loyalty. And my formula was, if I brought the deal in and I didn't need anything from you, you got 25% of anything. 25% goes back to the family.
Got it.
If I needed you in some way, like I had to have money from you or whatever, that was different. Then we maybe, you know, maybe you're my full partner.
So
everything was different.
Was a 25% override?
25%, wow. That was my deal. And I was a captain, so there was nobody between me and him. So I gave it to him. Like if I was a soldier, I'd have to give it to my captain then would give it to him, and they'd work it out.
Once you're a captain, you only report up, right? There's nobody else
directly
between.
to the boss.
You talked about consigliere, right? Counselor. I can tell you, I am where I'm at right now because I've had some amazing advisors in my life. I can't even, we were talking about Dudley earlier, we were talking about certain, you know, Tom and some of these other guys that have affected my life. How do you know who is a consigliere where you can open up with? Like in your world, that's a big part of your life and your business. So how do you identify one And when do you know this is going to be the guy that I'm going to go to?
The consigliere is an official position in our life. There is a
For every
consigliere.
made man or for?
There's one consigliere in every family. And the consigliere, his official position is that he is the liaison between the men and the boss. In other words, in that life, we're told this: everybody is equal. You may be the boss, but you're still equal. You don't have better rights than the soldier. We're all made guys, we're all equal. You just happen to have a different position. You're in control, but we're equal. You can't violate a soldier's right either. So if a soldier has a problem, maybe with the boss or something, he's supposed to go to the consigliere, and the consigliere straightens it out with the boss. That's in theory how it is. In practice, it doesn't work that way, because the boss appoints the consigliere. And if you have a problem with the boss and you go to the consigliere, you're probably going to get killed or get in trouble.
Got it.
So you never said anything to the consigliere. It was kind of a nonsense position, you know. And usually it was a guy that the boss respected, that, you know, he would run things off of, and they'd discuss things together and figure out what they have to do in any situation. You didn't have an individual consigliere, but obviously, the guy that I trusted the most and talked with was my dad. If I had something that I thought I needed advice with, I talked to my dad.
It was immediate, yeah.
That was it. It's good to have that one person there that you could go to and say, look, you know, especially my dad, because he knew the life so well.
What made a very good consigliere? So if you were to say, here's what makes a very good consigliere, what would you say it was?
Wisdom. He had to know the life. He had to have good discernment, you know, on you know, how to figure things out. He should be a cool-tempered guy, and he should be sincere, and you know, and not have his own personal agenda. That's important, but that's rare. I'm telling you, it's rare in that life. There's so much politics that goes on there. You really had to be careful.
What was the benefit of being a consigliere?
It's a high position. You know, I mean, the underboss and the consigliere were kind of equal.
Really? Really? Wow, so that much of a respected position. So let's transition to human nature. You know, what were some of the things that you learned where you would go and have a sit down, or you'd meet with people and you would say, I don't know if I feel comfortable with this guy. I don't know if I trust this guy. I feel comfortable trusting this guy. Was there a methodology that you eventually put together, or was it still an intuition type of thing when you were reading people?
It was more intuitive, I would say, because everybody was so different. And obviously, if you had experience with somebody more than once, then you know, all right, I know what I'm in for with this guy. But it was more intuitive, because again, with me, I had so many, you know, with so many different people, and I pretty well knew, you know, when you start to get some experience in that life, you know right away, you know, when somebody's out to get you, and so to speak, you know, they're looking to, you know, not make things turn out for you well. You know, you just deal with it.
Because I would assume probably a person who ends up becoming a boss in that world, you have to be very good in human nature. You know, you got to be able to figure it out and see who's, even if you have a sit-down, you're sitting there, you're looking at this guy saying, that guy's not on my side, this guy's on my side, that guy's in the middle, this guy. There was a lot of that probably going on all the time.
Yeah, you know the problem though, Patrick, with that life, you know, that life is like, it's like a wheel turning around. And the guy that's on the bottom today can end up being on the top tomorrow. And you always had to be mindful of that. So, for instance, you know, in Gotti's case, you know, he could have had a soldier close to him that was a nobody, really. And then all of a sudden, Gotti's the boss, and now this guy becomes somebody. So a guy that you didn't have much respect for, now you better respect him.
Got it.
So because of that, you always tried to treat people the right way. Yeah, because you never know, you know, where that guy's going to be the next day or the next week, and then he's got it in for you, and then you got a problem.
That is very interesting when you think about that, because that guy comes up, the influence is going to be with him, right? So let's transition into some interesting characters. So Rudy Giuliani, right? He's coming up, right, and he wants to clean house. Is what he wants to do. Rudy says, a guy who wrote a book, Man of Honor?
Man of Honor.
Man of Honor. Who is the person?
Bonanno.
Okay, so he writes the book, and then he gives the blueprint to them to know what the RICO game was, and he puts that together, and they had the best FBI agent at that time, some guy named Lindley or Lynn, you know, that he knew how to go and create informants, and he goes and figures out with the Green Reaper, the Scarpa, I think. So how, is that really truth to that, or is that more? Okay,
I don't believe any of that. I mean, Giuliani says that the reason he had a position in Washington, D.C. in the Department of Justice. And his story was that Joe Bonanno wrote this book, and he, being an Italian-American, Giuliani, was so insulted by this book because he made the Mafia out to be like a family, like it was a very legitimate, great thing. And he was so insulted by it, Giuliani, that he had to clean house because of it. And that's why he came to New York and became the U.S. attorney there, so he could attack the mob and clean house. I don't know if I believe that. I think he was an opportunistic guy, and being a U.S. attorney in Manhattan is an extremely prestigious position. And he picked our guys to go after and build his career at that point in time. And he did a great job of it. I mean, let's face it.
He has that reputation till today, you know.
I mean, he was very capable at what he did. The racketeering, the RICO statute, had been on the books for over 10 years when Rudy came in, but nobody ever used it. He learned, or he saw how to use it effectively, and he started using it against us, and it was designed to be used against us, but nobody ever did it. And it's an extremely difficult law to navigate around. I mean, I had 3 RICO indictments. To me, I mean, I think it's an unconstitutional law, but it's a law. Nevertheless, it's on the books, so you live with it. But you know, he just was determined to make his name on us guys, and he did.
Did you ever have a one-on-one run-in with him?
I had one. Well, in the courtroom, the day I was, he indicted me on a big RICO case. And the day of my arraignment, he was giving me bail, and he came up to me and he said, "Francis, if I convict you on this case, I'm going to give you double what your father got. You're going to get 100 years. And that's the kind of time they were giving. Told me straight out. And I said, "Rudy, I beat you guys 3 times already. Let's go for round 4. I told him, you know, I was kind of arrogant back then. But, you know, I was on trial for several months, and I was the lead defendant, and I was acquitted in that case. Some of my co-defendants were convicted. I got 30 years. So I would have probably got at least 50 if I lose that case. So to say that I won that case was a blessing is an understatement.
Wow.
I'd still be in prison.
Wow. What do you think about Rudy today? What do you think, like when you see Rudy today on TV? I mean, I saw news was on. So when you watch TV and you see him, how do you look at him when you know?
I'm okay with him.